I never thought choosing an economy seat would lead to the most humiliating moment of my travel life. But when that condescending flight attendant belittled me in front of the entire cabin, she had no idea my father was about to land his private jet and buy the entire airline by morning. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. You know, there are moments in life when everything changes in an instant. When the world as you know it gets flipped upside down, and you realize that people's true colors shine brightest when they think nobody important is watching. This is the story of one of those moments. And I'm Olivia, the woman who lived through it. It was a Thursday evening in late July, the kind of humid summer night that makes airport terminals feel like pressure cookers. I had just finished my final year at Westlake University, and I was flying home to see my family before starting my new job. Most people didn't know much about my father's business empire, and honestly, I preferred it that way. I was just a regular 22-year-old who enjoyed simple pleasures like photography, hiking, and spending time with friends. I had intentionally chosen to attend college under my mother's maiden name Reynolds to avoid the attention that came with my father's status. That evening, I was traveling light, just a carry-on suitcase and my trusty backpack with my most precious possessions, my camera, journal, and the dog-eared paperback I was determined to finish during the flight. Nothing fancy, just the normal post-graduation trip home that thousands of students make every year. I had booked my own ticket using money I'd saved for my campus job. I calculated that I'd saved nearly $900 by choosing economy class over the business class my father had offered to arrange. Maybe it was pride, or maybe it was my determination to prove my independence, but that decision would become the catalyst for everything that followed. I dressed comfortably that day, wearing my favorite well-worn jeans and a simple navy blue hoodie from the university rowing team. My hair was pulled back in a messy bun, and I carried my beat-up backpack that had been with me through 4 years of college adventures. Looking back, I realized that this casual appearance would become the reason for the most dramatic airline story I'd ever be part of. Sky Global Airways operated out of Terminal C at Hartwick International Airport, right in the heart of the country's busiest transit hub. Their fleet was known for luxury first-class cabins and celebrity endorsements, the kind of airline that featured in glossy travel magazines and luxury lifestyle blogs. I had chosen them simply because they offered a direct flight, though I'll admit I always felt slightly out of place among their typical clientele who seemed to treat air travel as a fashion runway opportunity. Walking through the jet bridge with my boarding pass in hand, I was greeted by the distinctive scent of Sky Global's signature lavender-infused cabin air and the soft ambient lighting that transitioned from cool blues to warm purples. The interior was all polished chrome and supple leather with digital screens embedded in every surface. Everything about the aircraft screamed exclusivity and sophistication. I approached my assigned seat in row 32, somewhere in the middle of economy class, with a small smile despite my exhaustion. The flight was nearly full. Business travelers in pressed suits tapping away on laptops, couples heading for vacations, and a few families trying to keep young children entertained. I stowed my carry-on in the overhead bin and settled into the window seat, already planning to catch some sleep during the 4-hour journey. That's when she appeared. Tiffany Belmont strode down the aisle like she was walking a runway rather than performing pre-flight checks. She was the kind of flight attendant who commanded attention without saying a word. Tall and elegant, with perfectly styled platinum blonde hair swept into an immaculate updo beneath her signature Sky Global cap. Her uniform was impeccably pressed, the company's distinctive teal and silver colors complementing her flawless complexion. Every move she made seemed choreographed for maximum effect. Tiffany was checking overhead bins with practiced efficiency, but I noticed how her interactions changed depending on which cabin section she was in. In the first class and premium cabins, her smile was warm and genuine, her voice melodic and accommodating. By the time she reached economy, that smile had faded to something mechanical and cold. I was struggling to fit my backpack under the seat in front of me, trying not to disturb the passenger next to me, when Tiffany approached. "Excuse me," I said politely. "Would it be possible to store this in an overhead bin instead? I'm worried about my camera equipment." Tiffany's pale blue eyes scanned me from head to toe, taking in my casual attire with barely concealed disdain. When she spoke, her voice carried the crisp authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. "I'm Tiffany Belmont, senior cabin attendant," she announced, though she made no move to offer any assistance. All overhead compartments in economy are reserved for standard-sized luggage only. Personal items like backpacks must be stored under the seat in front of you. The way she emphasized economy made it sound like I was asking for a free upgrade to a private suite rather than making a simple request about my backpack. I felt my cheeks warm with embarrassment as other passengers began to take notice of our interaction. "It contains fragile photography equipment," I explained quietly, hoping to keep the conversation discreet. "I'm just concerned about it getting damaged if someone kicks it accidentally." Tiffany's perfectly sculpted eyebrows arched even higher. "Photography equipment in economy?" she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "I'm sure your smartphone pictures will survive just fine under the seat." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The words hit me like a physical blow. Several passengers nearby chuckled, and I could feel curious stares from across the aisle. In that moment, I understood what she was really saying. In her eyes, I didn't belong on this premium airline. "I have professional equipment," I said, trying to maintain my composure even as my heart began to race. "It's quite valuable, and I'm worried about—" "Miss," Tiffany interrupted with an exaggerated sigh, "Sky Global's policies are quite clear. If you wanted special accommodation for valuable items, you should have purchased a premium seat." She gestured toward the front of the plane where the business-class passengers were already being served pre-departure champagne. "Those customers understand the value of proper service." The sound of her voice seemed unnaturally loud in the suddenly quiet cabin section, and I could feel the weight of every stare from the surrounding passengers. Some looked embarrassed for me, while others seemed almost entertained by the spectacle. "Look," I tried again, my voice stronger as frustration began to replace embarrassment. "I'm not asking for special treatment, I just want to protect my equipment." But Tiffany was just getting started. She seemed to feed off my discomfort, growing more confident and dismissive with each passing moment. "Perhaps next time you should consider whether discount travel is appropriate for transporting valuable equipment," she said, making air quotes with her perfectly manicured fingers. By now, several other passengers had stopped their own preparations to watch the drama unfold, their expressions ranging from sympathy to judgment. A business-suited man across the aisle shook his head slightly, though whether at me or at Tiffany's behavior, I couldn't tell. "This is ridiculous," I said, my voice finally finding its strength. "I'm a paying customer just like everyone else." "Not quite like everyone else," Tiffany replied with a cold smile, gesturing toward the premium cabins. "Our premium passengers pay for premium service and accommodations. Economy passengers pay for, well, economy." She made a show of looking at my boarding pass, which I'd placed in the seat pocket. "Seat 32F, standard economy. No priority boarding. No additional baggage allowance." She recited these facts as if they were criminal charges. "Miss Reynolds," she continued, "perhaps you don't fly Sky Global often enough to understand our cabin hierarchy, but I assure you, we take our policies very seriously." The accusation hung in the air like stale cabin oxygen, poisoning the atmosphere around us. My mouth fell open in shock. I had never been spoken to like this in my entire life. Certainly not for simply asking a reasonable question. "There must be some solution," I stammered, my voice growing shakier as I became uncomfortably aware of the audience we had gathered. "Maybe there's a closet or staff area where—" "Absolutely not," Tiffany declared. "Staff storage is for crew use only. It's a security violation to store passenger items in restricted areas." She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice just enough that only those immediately around us could hear. "Between us, those economy tickets barely cover the cost of your seat and complimentary water. They certainly don't entitle you to special storage privileges." I felt my face burning with humiliation. I looked around desperately, hoping someone would speak up on my behalf. But the other economy passengers had already turned away, clearly wanting no part of what they perceived as a losing battle. A few were even nodding along with Tiffany's explanation of airline economics. "I'd like to speak to the head flight attendant," I said, though my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. "There has to be someone who can resolve this reasonably." Tiffany's smile was as cold as the air conditioning blasting from the overhead vents. "I am the senior cabin attendant on this flight. This is my cabin, and these are my decisions." If you're unhappy with our standard economy accommodations, perhaps you should consider an upgrade for your next journey. I believe we have one premium economy seat still available for just $840 more. The humiliation was complete. Sitting there in that narrow economy seat, surrounded by people who clearly thought I was some entitled brat demanding special treatment, I felt smaller than I had ever felt in my life. The fact that I had chosen this seat to be independent, that I could have easily afforded a first-class ticket, none of it seemed to matter in the face of Tiffany Belmont's judgment. "You're making a mistake," I whispered, though I'm not sure she even heard me over the sound of her own satisfaction. "If your item doesn't fit under the seat as required, I'll need to check it to the cargo hold," Tiffany announced loudly, her voice carrying down the aisle. "We simply cannot allow passenger convenience to compromise the safety procedures of Sky Global Airways." A flight attendant from the front of the plane approached, a young man with kind eyes who seemed concerned by the commotion. "Is everything all right here, Tiffany?" he asked quietly. "Just a passenger who doesn't understand our economy class policies, Ethan," she replied, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Nothing I can't handle." Ethan glanced at me sympathetically but said nothing as Tiffany continued her performance. "Your options are simple," she stated, as if addressing a difficult child. "Place your bag completely under the seat, check it to cargo, or," she paused dramatically, "you can choose not to fly with Sky Global today." I wanted to fight. I wanted to scream and demand justice and make her understand that she was wrong about me. But surrounded by hostile faces and judgmental stares, I felt powerless. So, I did the only thing I could do. I slowly pushed my backpack further under the seat, silently praying that my camera equipment would survive the journey. "A wise choice," Tiffany said with a triumphant smile. "Enjoy your flight in economy, Miss Reynolds." Quote. She turned and glided away, leaving me sitting there with burning cheeks and the bitter taste of humiliation. As the pre-flight safety demonstration began, I stared out the window, trying to blink back tears that threatened to spill over. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking as I tried to text my father. But the flight attendants were already announcing that all electronic devices needed to be switched to airplane mode. I reluctantly complied, feeling more alone in that crowded cabin than I had in years. The passengers around me returned to their pre-flight routines, the entertainment over. I was just another economy passenger who had been put in her place, invisible to the world around me. The plane began to taxi toward the runway, and I closed my eyes, wishing I could disappear into my seat. That's when I heard it, the distinctive chime of the aircraft communication system, followed by an announcement that would change everything. Greater than, "Ladies and gentlemen, this is Captain Harlow speaking," came a confident, authoritative voice over the intercom. "I've just received word from our ground team that we'll need to return to the gate for a brief moment. We apologize for the delay, but we should be underway shortly. Flight attendants, please prepare the doors for arrival." A collective groan rippled through the cabin. Delay announcements were never welcome, especially on an evening flight. I heard muttered complaints about missed connections and late arrivals as the aircraft slowly turned around and headed back toward the terminal. Tiffany's voice came over the intercom next, artificially sweet as she addressed the premium cabins. "Our sincerest apologies for this unexpected delay. We'll be serving additional refreshments to our first and business class passengers while we wait." I kept my eyes fixed on the window, watching as we approached the gate once more. The jet bridge reconnected with a gentle thud, and the fastened seatbelt signs dinged off. Passengers immediately began reaching for their phones, eager to inform whoever was waiting for them about the delay. I pulled out my phone, too, finally able to send that text to my father. But before I could even unlock the screen, I heard the unmistakable sound of the main cabin door opening, followed by hurried footsteps coming down the aisle. "Miss Belmont," came a stern voice I didn't recognize. "A word, please." Quote. I glanced up to see a man in his 50s wearing the distinctive dark uniform of Sky Global's executive staff. The gold braid on his shoulders and the company's platinum pin on his lapel marked him as someone from upper management. His expression was carefully neutral, but there was something in his eyes that suggested barely contained anger. Tiffany's face shifted from annoyed to concerned in an instant. "Mr. Donovan, sir, I wasn't aware you would be on this flight." "I'm not," he replied curtly. "I was specifically asked to come aboard regarding a passenger situation." By now, the entire economy section had gone quiet. Everyone was watching this unexpected drama unfold, including me. I had no idea what was happening, but something told me to stay quiet and observe. Sir, if this is about the economy passenger with the oversized personal item, I was simply enforcing company policy, Tiffany began, her voice taking on a defensive tone. Mr. Donovan cut her off with a raised hand. That's not why I'm here. Is there an Olivia Reynolds on this flight? My heart skipped a beat when I heard my name. Hesitantly, I raised my hand. That's me. The executive's expression softened immediately as he made his way toward my seat. Miss Reynolds, I need to ask you to come with me, please. Confused and slightly anxious, I stood up, awkwardly retrieving my backpack from under the seat. The other passengers were watching intently, probably wondering what trouble I was in now. Sir, is there a problem? Tiffany asked, trailing behind Mr. Donovan. If the passenger has filed some sort of complaint. Miss Belmont, he interrupted sharply, you're needed in the terminal. The station manager wishes to speak with you immediately. The color drained from Tiffany's face as she followed us toward the front of the aircraft. I could feel the stares of every passenger as we passed through the premium cabins and approached the exit. The contrast between Tiffany's earlier confidence and her current nervousness was striking. As we stepped into the jet bridge, I was surprised to see another man waiting there. Tall and distinguished with salt and pepper hair, and the same penetrating gray eyes I saw in the mirror every morning, Victor Reynolds stood with the calm assurance of someone accustomed to command. Dad? I said, genuinely shocked to see him. What are you doing here? I thought you were in Geneva until tomorrow. Quote. My father's expression was a mixture of concern and controlled anger, but his voice was gentle when he addressed me. Livy, are you all right? I flew back early to surprise you, and when I called the airline to check on your flight, they mentioned a delay. Before I could answer, he turned to Mr. Donovan. Thank you, James. I appreciate you handling this personally. Mr. Donovan nodded respectfully. Of course, Mr. Reynolds. Anything for Aerovista's new chairman. I saw Tiffany's eyes widen at this exchange, her gaze darting between my father and Mr. Donovan as understanding began to dawn on her face. Aerovista? She whispered, her voice barely audible. The parent company that just acquired Sky Global? My father turned to her then, his expression cooling significantly. Miss Belmont, I presume? I've heard quite a bit about your customer service approach in the last 30 minutes. Tiffany's face went from pale to ashen. Mr. Reynolds, sir, there seems to be a misunderstanding. I was simply following company protocol regarding cabin baggage in economy class. Interesting, my father replied, his voice deceptively calm. Because I've just reviewed Sky Global's customer service manual, and nowhere does it state that economy passengers should be publicly humiliated or spoken to condescendingly. The jet bridge had gone completely silent. Every airline staff member within earshot was watching this unprecedented conversation unfold. Tiffany looked around desperately, as if searching for an ally or escape route. Sir, I assure you, my intention was only to maintain the high standards that Sky Global is known for, she said quickly. If your daughter felt that I was being disrespectful, I sincerely apologize. My father's expression didn't change. Miss Belmont, do you know why Aerovista acquired Sky Global Airways last week? Tiffany swallowed hard. For its premium brand reputation and established roots, sir? Partially, my father acknowledged, but primarily because I believe that exceptional service should be available to every passenger, regardless of what they paid for their ticket or what they're wearing. He gestured toward me in my university hoodie and jeans. My daughter chose to fly economy not because she couldn't afford business class, but because she values independence and practicality. Qualities I've always admired in her. I felt a surge of pride at his words, standing a little straighter as he continued. The fact that you treated her, or any passenger, as less deserving of basic respect based on their seat assignment goes against everything the new Sky Global will stand for. Mr. Donovan stepped forward. Miss Belmont will need to continue this discussion with HR if you'll follow me to the terminal. Wait, my father said, his voice softening slightly. Miss Belmont, I don't believe in public humiliation as a management tactic, even when it might seem deserved. He turned to me. Olivia, what would you suggest we do in this situation? Every eye turned to me, including Tiffany's, which were now filled with unmistakable fear. The power dynamic had completely reversed, and suddenly my opinion was the one that mattered most. I thought carefully before speaking. I think everyone deserves a second chance to learn from their mistakes. Maybe Miss Belmont could benefit from spending some time working in every cabin class, to understand that every passenger deserves respect regardless of what they paid. My father smiled, the kind of proud smile that warmed me from the inside out. An excellent suggestion, he said, turning back to Tiffany. Miss Belmont, instead of termination, you'll be reassigned to our new cross-cabin training program. You'll spend 2 months working in economy class, learning to provide exceptional service to every passenger, regardless of their ticket price. Tiffany's relief at avoiding immediate dismissal was visible, though the prospect of serving in economy clearly horrified her. Yes, sir. Thank you for the opportunity, she managed to say, though her voice lacked its earlier confidence. This isn't just about punishment, my father clarified. It's about building a better airline. Every passenger who chooses to fly with us deserves respect and dignity. He paused, letting his words sink in. I hope you'll learn something valuable from this experience. Mr. Donovan gestured for Tiffany to follow him. We'll discuss the details of your reassignment in the office, he said professionally. As they walked away, I noticed Tiffany's shoulders were slumped, a stark contrast to her earlier rigid posture. Once they were out of earshot, my father turned to me with concern. Are you really okay, Livy? When the gate agent recognized your name and told me how you were being treated. I'm fine, Dad, I assured him, though I was still processing everything that had just happened. But what's this about Aerovista acquiring Sky Global? You never mentioned this was in the works. He smiled sheepishly. It was meant to be a surprise for your graduation. I know how much you love travel and hospitality management. I thought you might want to get some real-world experience before starting your new job. By buying an entire airline, I laughed, the tension of the past hour finally breaking. Well, it was a sound business decision too, he replied with a wink. But seeing how passengers are treated in different cabins makes me even more convinced it was the right move. The culture needs changing. A new flight attendant approached us, a woman with a warm smile and professional demeanor. Mr. Reynolds, Miss Reynolds, we've prepared the aircraft for departure. Would you like to board now? My father looked at me questioningly. I had them hold a first-class seat for you, but it's completely your choice. I thought about it for a moment. Actually, I think I'll stay in economy, I decided, but I would appreciate if someone could help me find a safe place for my camera equipment. Of course, the flight attendant replied immediately. We can store it in the crew closet where it will be perfectly safe. As we reboarded the aircraft, I noticed a palpable difference in the atmosphere. The crew was more attentive, and passengers who had witnessed my earlier humiliation now looked at me with newfound respect or curiosity. I returned to my economy seat. Now, with the comfort of knowing my photography equipment was safely stowed, the older gentleman next to me leaned over with a smile. That was quite something, he said quietly. Reminded me of an important lesson I learned in business years ago. Never judge someone's worth by appearances. I smiled back. It's a lesson some people learn the hard way. The flight proceeded without further incident. Occasionally, I would catch glimpses of my father coming back from first class to check on me, which made me smile. He had always respected my independence, even when he could have easily made my life much more comfortable. 6 months later, I found myself in the Sky Global corporate headquarters, reviewing customer satisfaction reports. After graduation, I had accepted my father's offer to join the airline's executive training program, focusing on improving the economy class experience. The data showed promising results. Overall satisfaction scores for economy passengers had increased by 27% since we implemented the new service standards. Complaints about staff attitude had dropped significantly, and our social media sentiment analysis showed positive trends across all cabin classes. As I closed the report, my assistant announced an unexpected visitor. Miss Reynolds, Tiffany Belmont is here to see you. I was surprised, but asked her to send Tiffany in. The woman who entered my office was almost unrecognizable from the haughty flight attendant who had humiliated me 6 months earlier. Her uniform was the same, but her demeanor had completely transformed. Miss Reynolds, she began, I wanted to personally thank you before I start my new position. New position? I asked. Tiffany nodded. After completing the cross-cabin training program, I applied for the economy cabin service manager role. Mr. Donovan informed me this morning that I got the job. I couldn't help but smile at the irony. Congratulations, Tiffany. That's quite a change from where you started. It is, she agreed, her expression sincere. Those 2 months in economy changed my perspective completely. I saw how hard-working most economy passengers are, how many are traveling for important life events or family emergencies, and how a little kindness makes all the difference. She hesitated before continuing. I never properly apologized to you. My behavior that day was inexcusable, and I'm truly sorry for how I treated you." "Apology accepted," I said genuinely. "I'm glad something positive came from the experience." "More than you know," Tiffany replied. "Your father could have fired me on the spot, and you could have demanded it. Instead, you gave me a chance to learn and grow. I'll never forget that lesson." After she left, I looked at the framed photo on my desk, a candid shot I'd taken of my father addressing Sky Global's staff during the company-wide training initiative. His words that day had become the airline's new service philosophy. Every passenger deserves first-class respect, regardless of their seat assignment. That incident changed more than just Tiffany's career path. It transformed an entire corporate culture and reminded everyone that true worth isn't measured by the price of your ticket or the clothes you wear, but by how you treat others, especially those you think can't help or hurt you. Today, Sky Global consistently ranks among the top airlines for customer satisfaction across all cabin classes. We've pioneered innovative economy comfort features and service standards that other airlines are scrambling to copy. And whenever I fly, which I still occasionally do in economy, I remember that humbling day and the powerful lesson it taught everyone involved. Can you believe how quickly karma came full circle? This story proves you should never judge someone by their seat assignment or appearance. If you enjoyed this tale of airline justice, smash that like button and share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed someone get their comeuppance after making unfair assumptions? Subscribe for more incredible real-life stories that will restore your faith in karma and justice. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.